Hello and welcome back to the FSF podcast. I am Tim, I am your host, and this is a reminder that this show is made by nerds for nerds. So, welcome to the Nerdatorium. Our guest today is a two-time award-winning actress, nominated 6 times. She's a singer, a certified Krav Maga instructor since 2008. That scares the crap out of me, which means that she can sing to you whilst kicking your ass and doing it in multiple theatrical stylings. It's kind of impressive. But she also has one of the coolest backgrounds of anyone that I've ever had on the show. And so I can't wait to talk to her about some of this stuff. And I hope that you'll be just as excited as well. So let's welcome Tamara Podemski to the FSF podcast. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you here. You've got a really cool background. You've got some really cool shows you've been a part of, and I'm excited to have a couple minutes to sit down and talk with you about them. So, Tamara, one of the first things that we do with every one of our guests, because I always like to know what makes people tick and why they do the things that they do. So, we put that all in this nice little ribbon of calling it an origin story. So, in the origin of Tamara Podemski, what got you here? What made you say, I want to be an entertainer?
Hmm. Well, I know we're just off to like in the beginning of the chat, but I'm going to go deep. I'm just going to go like right in
Go for it.
because the flame under my butt um, to do anything, to exist, and to try to make it purposeful and meaningful, I think comes from being the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors on one side and residential school survivors on the other side. Um, the what my grandparents endured to be able to allow me this life of privilege to do anything that I dream. Of course, there's always obstacles, but even just the dare to dream gene really comes from them. And, there's certainly guilt that comes with that also. Like if you don't, take advantage of the freedoms that we are allowed, that they weren't allowed. That can obviously weigh heavy on you, but mostly it has been the igniting force for me to make something of the very short period of time that I am allowed to dance upon this dance in this realm.
Okay. So let's take that a little bit a step further because I was gonna talk to you about a little bit about that in a future question, but we'll just jump right into it now. Now, like you said, you have Holocaust survivors on one side,
Hmm.
your family on the other side is First Nations from
Hmm.
Saskatchewan.
Hmm.
There's some very different cultural influences there. So, how have those cultural influences affected you both as a person and affected your choices in what you do as a performer?
Well, I think the difference in my family is that my grandparents always spoke about where they came from, what they endured. I know for
Okay.
many children and grandchildren who know that they come from a people that have endured a lot. Um, they're really at the mercy of what their grandparents are willing to share with them. And I was really blessed with, literally sitting on the laps of my grandparents where they told us every detail to the point of,
Oh, wow. Okay.
visiting the residential school that they went to and also visiting Auschwitz and where with my grandfather, where he showed me the bunk that he slept in,
Oh,
going to
my.
his home in Poland. And there is it just activates all that genetic memory, all that blood memory, and it however easy it is, especially in this world that we are living in right now, to even imagine that those hardships, those oppressions, those abuses. I think having that immediate connection with them, that they never cared. And I started quite young, so I was like a child actor. They never cared about the glitz or glamour or fame of it. They wanted to know I was healthy, I was being a good human, I was sharing wealth with my family, with my community. It was always about the outreach, the lifting up others, and that kind of voice especially in an entertainment business where it's really easy to get a big head and believe things that people say about you. They were the grounding. And then, of course, that goes on to my parents, that they were this constantly a grounding force that reminded me, you're here because of where you come from and use it for good.
That's a powerful background.
Yeah.
I it kinda took my breath away for half a second when you said your grandfather showed you the bunk that he slept in. That's pretty heavy.
He took his six
That's
grandchildren. Yeah. We went about 15 years ago. And we went with a group of a much larger group. And so many of them had said he's now become all of our grandfathers, because if you never got to hear the stories from your parents or your grandparents or your great grandparents, all you really want is something to help connect you, to bridge that gap from a world so far
sure.
away that we can't, it's just impossible for us to relate to. um so yeah, I realize how very lucky I am to have had that from both of them.
Yeah, that's amazing, that's powerful. Y I noticed too that, you have a couple and we're not really gonna talk about this a ton, but I also noticed too that, with on the other side of your family, talking about your family members being from First Nations,
Hmm.
you've also recorded a couple of albums in the native tongue
Yeah.
and released those.
Yeah.
So how was that experience for you personally? How did that impact you?
Well, I had come off of Rent on Broadway. I had been in the musical of Rent for about 2 years. I was like 21 years old. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself after that. You think like, oh, you're in one Broadway show, you're just going to go to the next Broadway show. It doesn't work like that. I mean, maybe for some people it does. It didn't work like that for me. But I knew my voice. I knew like I had found my voice. I wanted to sing, and it was just a freak circumstance of a band in Los Angeles that was looking for a lead singer, an indigenous lead singer who could sing and write lyrics in their language. And so my family is Anishinaabe, and our language is Anishinaabemowin. I was actually taking classes at the University of Toronto at the time, and they had an Anishinaabemowin course there. So I was learning basic grammatical, like entry level Ojibwe. And I was like, I think I have the basics to be able to, string a song together. And so I would write really bad Anishinaabemowin in my songs. Right, the music was good, but the grammar probably wasn't the best. Then I would call my mushum, my grandfather. He would laugh at me how I was pronouncing everything, but then he basically, you know what? He in the end he should have gotten a songwriting credit because he fixed all my songs to make them sound better.
Love
And
it.
so it was a beautiful bond. And he's no longer with us, but this is one of my happiest memories with him because that launched my music career. I'm at album 4 now, and singing in English. But of course, still need help with the English language. So, but I have more people to help me with that now.
Sure, sure. No, that's a touching story as well. I didn't that's something I did not know about the from doing the research that your grandfather had helped you with. I like the fact that he laughed at you first. And only because a parent of 3 children, I resonate very strongly with that. My kids will bring me something. They'll be like, "Hey,
Yes.
dad, what about this?" Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah.
Close, but no, no, no.
Yes.
We're gonna have to.
Yes, and that's also like a very Indian thing to do, of just like the humbling nature of it. Like, before you think you've just written, a Grammy award winning song, let me put you in your place and and tell you everything that's wrong with this.
You were doing great, but
Yes. Yeah.
but you know what? It's good though. We do need people like that in our lives that'll help
Yeah.
keep us humble, help us keep our feet on the ground and our head out of the clouds.
Yeah.
So no, that's awesome that you had that from a young age to be able to help you point you in the right direction.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I was looking over the list of shows and things that you've been involved in, um, and yeah, just an impressive list of shows and everything. But currently, and one of the reasons I was very excited to talk with you is I was given the opportunity to have some of the screeners for the show Murderbot,
I've heard of it. Yeah.
You've heard of it. Good. That I hope so because they put you on camera for it. Uh, that'd be awkward, wouldn't it? Just kind of like walking around downtown and a week later, hey, I'm in a show.
There are those actors though who just don't watch the stuff that they're in. So I could be that person too, and this would be a very boring interview.
That's okay. I've actually talked with a couple of folks who are like, yeah, once I've done it, there's no need for me to
Yeah, you
watch
just
it
move
again.
on. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine, but there's other parts of the show that we can talk about it. So it's not
Yeah.
always a bad thing. Uh, but I'm a huge fan of the show. I
Oh,
I
yay.
I have found myself laughing out loud at just some of the small little things that the Murderbot does
Yeah.
in the show and the way it portrays itself and moves forward and is trying to, you know, become whatever it's trying to become. And I think it's just kind of a neat journey. And I like its interactions with you guys as the cast.
Hmm.
So my question for you though, Tamara, now that I've rambled through all of that, my question for you is I'm hoping that you can tell the audience maybe who haven't seen Murderbot yet, and shame on you if you hadn't, go get Apple TV Plus. It's far worth the dollar amount that you're going to spend. You will get it back in spades. But I'm hoping that you could tell everybody about your character and what your role in the show is.
Yeah. So I play Dr. Bharadwaj, who is a geoscientist and part of um we call them, like, a hippie space, like space hippies, but a group of surveyors who are sent off from their planet to survey the land, take some mineral tests and make sure everything is okay. Of course, in this world, which is about 2,000 years in the future, survey crews aren't allowed to do that without a security unit, which is a robot. And the one that is assigned to our crew is a robot that names itself Murderbot, mostly because it has. I guess this is not a. This I'm not giving anything away. It has
No.
overrode its governor module, so it's actually a sentient being of operating from its own will. This makes for really great comedy, really incredible performance by Alexander Skarsgård, because he is acting as a robot without any of the fun facial cues that we use to emote anything. But what we get in this show, which is so brilliantly done, is the voiceover of Murderbot and its harsh judgment of humans, which it detests. It only likes
Hmm.
watching the soap operas, and it's forced to be not only with humans but like the touchiest, feeliest, loviest humans out there, which in fact starts to change its opinion about humans. And I think we, the space hippies, are representing a very different kind of human in the future. We live outside the corporation rim, we run our planet in a very different way. And so yeah, we get to be our freest, weirdest, nerdiest, fabulous selves.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a great show, and I have enjoyed it thusly. I'm kind of hoping though at some point somebody is going to make the Rise and Fall of Sanctuary Moon a real show.
Yes, this is what we were like while we were making it. We were Sanctuary Moon would come and shoot its part when we weren't there, but it's all our crew, it's all the same people. But we felt
Right.
like they were cheating on us when they would go and shoot Sanctuary Moon, and then when we'd see them the next day and we'd come in back to like the regular Murderbot world, they would like the stories that they would say of how fun, how amazing, how like they just couldn't stop talking about how incredible Sanctuary Moon is. And I, for one, I started to get jealous, and then I started to get scared. I was like, watch Sanctuary Moon be the be the thing that gets picked up and like 10 seasons of Sanctuary Moon. It's so fun. Um I also want to see the spin-off. It's a wild world. And I myself was a little bit starstruck when I got to meet some of the cast at the premiere.
Nice. Yeah, I think too, one of the things I've appreciated about the show as well is the strength of the writing.
Mhm.
You've got a heck of a writing crew on this show. How has the writing um, helped you bring your character to life?
Well, it's it's a totally different kind of writing because we're talking about adapting a series of books that are beloved. Like these are
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
cherished. There's 7 books of the Murderbot Diaries, and I read them all. Martha Wells has created such a phenomenal world and these characters. And writing a good show is one thing, writing a show that you're adapting to the screen that already just with the voiceover alone, the whole point is that we need to be inside Murderbot's head to appreciate his it's disgust and disdain for humans. And
Hmm.
so the like you can't say enough how skillfully and artfully that has to be done to make it work on the screen. I think they've done, Chris and Paul Weitz have done an incredible job. Martha Wells is also a consulting producer on it, so she's making sure that we are doing it in a good way that honors the world. But it is very hard for the real Murderbot Diary um, junkies. They will know that there's 2 characters that were lost. It's a big space. It's a big survey
Hmm.
crew, and we had to contract that into only 5 uh, characters. So
Yeah.
that's where I would say the biggest challenge was. Dr. Bardwaj, in the first book doesn't really have, you don't get to see the full arc of her. So we kind of went through the whole, what you see over 7 books, and tried to give her a little bit more. And you're also trying to take the other 2 characters that were lost and spread them out amongst us. So I'd say that part, as great as the writing is, at the end of the day, it is you're always going to lose some stuff. You're always going to
Hmm.
have, you have a character like the Dr. Menza, who is so fully fleshed out. I felt like for Dr. Bardwaj, because she's a composite of some other ones, and we're looking at an arc, just pretty much like a post traumatic syndrome, trying to track someone recovering from what she experiences
Right.
in episode 1. I actually felt that I had a really anxious time about crafting that over 10 episodes. And they're also very short episodes with with a huge ensemble. So when you know that it's your responsibility with the little time that you're given to make sure that you show how you are complementing or contrasting to the rest of the crew, I yeah, that was a big challenge. I hope, and that's why you always hope for like the second season, because the work that we're doing to flesh it all out in the first one gets easier in the second season. And I do feel like
Sure.
for Dr. B, we were all working very hard. I look to my cast a lot to say, am I crying too much? Am I am I silent too much? Am I, what's her feeling on this? And like, she's like super super capable sometimes, and then she's like literally frozen in
Hmm.
in in action of just fear.
But I think that's good though, because you talked about how it's a representation of PTSD,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
as somebody who deals with PTSD, that I felt that was pretty spot on for the moments where you're a little more hyperactive because you're
Yes.
trying to deal with it, and then there's
Yes.
other times where you are absolutely I have been absolutely frozen in fear where
Yeah.
I have not been able to move. So yeah, from that perspective I can totally get that, and I think that you guys did a really good job, and you in
Oh,
particular,
good, good.
in portraying that. That's one of the things I've appreciated more over the last few years is I think Hollywood has done a very good job, or a much better job, shall we say, at depicting mental health and mental health awareness, making sure that it's not just, oh, yeah, that's the crazy person shaking
Yeah.
because they're sad.
Yeah.
It's there's a reason behind it, and for those who have watched the show, You see Dr. B's reason pretty early on. It's
Yeah.
pretty obvious why life has not been a bowl of roses for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, no, yeah, I'm hoping for and looking forward to season 2 of this. It's it's a good show, and I
Oh,
just
thanks.
there's so much there that I'm only in book 1, by the way. I recently I'm an audiobook listener. I don't do a whole lot of actual turn the page reading, but I found it's just starting off. I was like, oh, that makes sense. There's that. Oh, that's a little different, So I did pick up on a little bit of that, but that's kind of the par for the course. Anytime we're working from a book to
Yeah.
a movie in particular, you think about all that you have to crunch down. And now we're talking about what about 22 to 24-minute episodes. So
Yeah.
we've gone from this crunching down to here, and now we're trying to scrunch down to here.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty narrow window but I think you guys have nailed it pretty good. So
Good.
in my professionally unprofessional opinion,
It
that's how I see it.
matters. That means
So
something to me.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I have some few more questions for you tomorrow, but they're not about Murderbot anymore.
Okay.
We're going to talk about some other things. We're going to go back to Krav Maga because holy
Ooh.
crap. So I'm very curious about this because now I did not know that Krav Maga was an actual thing up until the show How I Met Your Mother. And one of the
Okay.
episodes, the protagonist of the show, Ted, is dating a girl who is into Krav Maga. And he's like, yeah, she goes to these Krav Maga classes. They're like, what's that? He's like, I don't know. And then he gets his butt kicked later by her. So it's kind of funny. Uh, but so anyway, I told you all that so I could ask you this. Um, now, in having dealt with other people who have dealt with other forms of martial arts, because I understand that Krav Maga is a version of martial arts and
Yes,
to some degree.
we don't actually refer to it as a martial art.
Well, that's what I was going to get to because I didn't know what else to call it. So, so two things. Uh, how did you get into Krav Maga? And B, how does this discipline affect your everyday life? Does it and your work?
Okay. Question one. So I was a professional dancer for many years. I had a dance show coming up, and about 2 months before, I had a double umbilical hernia that just like
Ooh.
ripped. And we have an amazing, so I'm from Toronto, and just outside of
Hmm.
Toronto is one of like a world-class hernia hospital that people come from all over the world to go to, because the whole point is you don't go
Nice.
under, they stitch you up. It is a hardcore surgery. But they said there is no way you'll be able to dance in 2 months, and I said, oh no, I have to dance, this is my contract, I have to do this. And they said, I suppose if you train really, really hard. So, aside from all, or in addition to all the training that dancers do
Hmm.
regularly, they were like, if you could find something. So, I just went on the internet. The internet was around. I'm old, but the internet was still around at this time, or it had already been around at this time. But I did a quick search of
Nice.
like the most intense training out there, and Krav Maga came up. There was a place in Toronto. I called them the next day. I went every single day for 2 months, and my abs, like they just were, because it was an umbilical hernia. They just, it was like I became a machine. I had never, my body had never experienced what was. Well, I mean, you're fighting. It is explosive, kind of fast twitch muscles. It's short bursts of intense energy, which is very much like dancing, except you do it for a long, longer period of time. But it changed my life immediately. I had never, like, I don't express myself violently. I'm certainly been referred to as an aggressive woman, but or let's say passionate. But it was a whole new thing for me. Had no martial arts training. It was basically what I connected with was fight for your life. You never give up. And that's really what they're
Okay.
saying to you while you're punching a pad, while you are kind of in the mindset of you only engage in this kind of fight if you are being attacked. So we refer to it as a self-defense system as opposed to a martial art,
Hmm.
because you only use it if you are being attacked. Anyway, that's how I found it. It changed my life. I think right after that, shortly after that, I moved down to Los Angeles. I was at like really exciting time in my career. I arrived in Los Angeles having like come from Sundance, winning this big award. I was going to become like a Hollywood star, and then the strike happened, and
Oh yeah.
everything stopped, and many other things went on. But for 4 years, I could not book an acting job. It was like
Oof.
I had no idea what was going on in my world. I was recently divorced. I was like, everything in my world just turned upside down. And I was like, I remember a survival skill. And I found the Krav Maga Center in Los Angeles. I called them up. I charged a year membership to my brand new credit card that I got, and I trained. And after a week, the manager came up to me and he was like, "Who are you? Why do you fight like this? Where are you from? We want to train you to become a teacher." And that's what I did for 4 years. I became at the headquarters are in Los Angeles, and I taught Krav Maga for 4 years there. It was the most gratifying, fulfilling, thrilling thing I've ever done, and
That's
yeah,
cool.
I don't know how to, like, then I came back home. I got back into my career. I don't know, I would love to do it again. It's in my body at all times. So when you say how does it affect your work, every once in a while I get to play a character that gets to fight, and like, oh, she comes back like in a second. If the acting thing doesn't work out, I would I would move over to stunts. I love stunts. But it reminds me of dancing. Like that's how I connect with it. It's the physicality, the
Okay.
choreography, the
Yeah, I
power
was gonna
and like
mention. Yeah.
ferocity, and the like what our bodies are able to do. I'm also quite short. So it was always like people never expected the kind of power and like explosiveness to come out of this little. I'm 5 foot
Right.
four, and I could look really sweet sometimes. So it's always a nice surprise. But I highly recommend it. Like whether it's for fitness, whether it's for self-empowerment. We used to do workshops with people who had been people who had experienced sexual assault, people who have experienced
Okay.
domestic abuse. Like there's a whole other side to it where it just is empowering you to use your voice, use your body to fight, and stand up for the that no one has a right to touch you.
Perfect. No, I
That's my
like
short
that.
answer.
I like your short answer. It's a good answer. Okay. No, the reason I asked about how it affects your everyday life because in talking with other folks who have been in other disciplines, um, they talk about how it had affected their everyday, their movements, and you said the same thing about how sometimes we'll be doing a scene and it requires some type of movement, some type of fighting, and it's like
Mhm.
it's like you slip right back into it very easily in the choreography, and that's what a couple other people have mentioned too, is that it's especially for a performance such as movies or television. It is a choreographed dance. If you
Mhm.
don't do it right, somebody's going to get hurt.
Yes.
So but yeah, so it's kind of interesting to hear that how that plays along with not just the typical disciplines that everybody would think about, but Krav Maga being a very specialized mode of self-defense, to see how that kind of comes back in as well. All right,
Yeah, I think
cool.
the other thing I want to say about Krav Maga is that it's made for the streets. It's not made for like the tough people who are like meeting to do underground fighting. That it's
Right.
not MMA. We train in a lot of the MMA styles also, but the point is, we're giving school kids a way, for them to yell fire instead of yell help, because people don't always come when you're yelling for help. But for kids, like even just letting them know the bullying that's happening in the school ground. You're talking about women who are going out to a bar and a guy who just gets too close in a little way that we just have a finger that goes right here, that it looks, you're not going to get charged for anything. It's just for a second to make them choke a little bit and realize, oh, don't mess with that one. And my students would come back continuously and tell me how it has made them walk differently from their car to their house, from to work, and that's the kind of confidence. That's the mentality part and the awareness, and especially as we're on our phones like this, that's the thing. Like you will never
Mhm.
find me walking down the street not knowing who is behind me, how many people are back there, who I'm coming up against. Like
Mhm.
that's what it trained me. And I think at this day and age, when we are so distracted out there in the world, that's a really good tool to have.
No, that's a perfect answer. That's yeah, spot on. All right. So you have all these irons in the fire. You're an actor, you're a singer, which we talked a little bit about, martial arts and, well, Krav Maga.
Yeah.
Um, it's not a martial art, it's a Krav Maga. It's a self-defense. But when there is finally tomorrow time,
Yeah.
what do you do to relax and recharge?
Oh my gosh. So I left the city about 5 years ago. So I have my husband and our son, our 11-year-old son, and we left the city and moved to the lake, up in Georgian Bay, which is about 2 hours from Toronto. Um,
Okay.
for people who aren't familiar with this area, they maybe they heard of them like Muskokas or that area.
Mhm.
It is, you know, I don't know, it is paradise. It is my paradise. Um, Beach, just sitting out by the fire, just walking in the grass, playing with the dog. The stuff that puts me in nature, the stuff that is my family time, the stuff that unplugs me from all the noise, that's my happy place. There's certain, I guess there's hobbies. I mean, I like swimming in the lake happens every single day in the summer.
Love it.
We push it till no we push it to October sometimes, but then it just becomes like you're just cold plunging, and it's just that's not my thing. Healthy but not my thing. um
I get it, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, for me, I'm a walker. I walk, like I can walk forever. Whether that's like in the woods, woods walking is probably my favorite. Swimming in freshwater lake. Not a big of a fan of swimming in the ocean. Ocean scares me. I didn't grow up, like, I'm a Great Lakes girl. So that's the stuff. And my son luckily is as obsessed with musicals as I am, and he's kind of a little Broadway show tunes guy. So
Nice.
doing karaoke with him, he's figured out, this wasn't around when I was little, but like he does all the karaoke on YouTube, just in like the privacy of
Oh,
his.
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's amazing what is available to them. So yeah,
Yeah, there's not much
singing.
that's out there that
Yeah,
you
but
yeah.
like it was just us, like with a hairbrush in the mirror. That was what it was
Mhm.
back then. But singing my face off with him, to all the show tunes. That's also still my favorite pastime.
Love it.
Yeah.
Alright, very cool. Alright, Tamara, I talked about in the beginning about how we like to know what makes people tick, why they do what they do. Second question that kinda goes along that same premise, that same theory line. It's time for suggestions. What are you reading, watching, or listening to that you think everybody else should be checking out?
Ooh. Um, I've recently, so today, I'll just say today, because if those questions always like, there's like so many people I could talk about. Today I revisited Joan Osborne. Do you remember Joan
Okay.
Osborne?
Hmm? What if God was one of us?
Yes. So that was like her most famous one, but she is one of the best
Right.
blues singers like of our generation. I went back, like Saint Teresa, that song. I needed to just get in the zone. I needed to focus. I was working, but I needed to hear something that also I could sing along to. But now I'm going like and then I was like, oh my gosh, is she on Instagram? I don't even, I don't even know. It's been so long that I had like a deep dive into Joan Osborne. So she is who I'm listening to. If and I know she tours around. She doesn't come to Canada as much, but in the States, she is down there. But yes, I would do a big plug, because most people just know her as What If God Was One of Us. Amazing song, but you have to listen to all of her other music. Um, What's the next thing? I just saw it's on Apple TV, because I happen to be watching Apple TV a lot. Um, Deaf President Now. Did you hear about that documentary?
No.
So it came up because I was watching Murderbot, and it came up as an
Okay.
ad. So it is about Gallaudet University, the only deaf liberal arts college in the world, and a big uprising that they had in the 80s to insist, and basically they well, I'm not going to give it away, but to insist that they have a deaf president for the for the university, which had never been in 124 years. It is a fascinating documentary. Highly recommend
Mhm.
that.
Oh, I
And
would check that out
then
for sure.
I got into the pit recently. Have you seen the pit
I'm trying to
with
think which
Noah
one that one is.
Wiley?
No, that is on my to be watched list.
I kept on hearing about it, but the premise is they do it 1 hour. It's real time in an ER. So the first episode is 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Not it's very cool.
Interesting. Okay.
But also, I think doctors have said it is probably the most it's very very realistic and different from some of our other doctor procedural shows out there. This is yeah, like you get they are exposing you to the ER in Pittsburgh,
So not Grey's
digging it.
Anatomy. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, no, no. Yes. Yeah, if Grey's Anatomy is on that side of the spectrum, this is on that end.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, The Pit is something that I have on my to be watch list. I just haven't made my way there yet, but
But
I
10
will be getting
Presidents
to that
Now,
one very.
that's like one evening, like an
Yeah,
hour and a half, really, really special
I'm
documentary.
actually I love documentaries, so I'm actually very interested in that. So, very cool. Thank you for sharing that. All right. All right, Tamara, we've gotten to the point of the show where I need to ask you what we call our silly question.
Great. I love silly
And
questions.
it's really not that silly, but we call it a silly question anyway. So typically I would have a co-host with me. Her name is Kathleen. Kathleen wasn't able to be here tonight, but uh she has a 6.5-year-old daughter, and her daughter were out and about somewhere. I don't remember how the story goes particularly, but somebody asked this question of her daughter, but not of Kathleen. And Kathleen was like, well, that's rude. You should never age out of this question.
Yeah.
So, Tamara Podemski,
Yeah.
what's your favorite dinosaur?
Ooh. Hmm. I would say probably, oh my gosh, the Brontosaurus. Is that the one with the really long neck?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I find them they're herbivores,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
They're the ones that
They
like
reach and
yes,
eat the tall trees and yeah.
exactly. And I can only base this on like Jurassic Park and on the books that I was reading with my son and everything. His is the T Rex, but mine was the Bronx because
Fair
it's
enough.
like the skyline of it, like when you see the horizon, and I find them so graceful. I find them so like in a time of such I mean, I'm only this is Jurassic Park is my only reference. But I just found them maternal and loving and the peacekeepers. That they were the ones who were like keeping order and grace.
Yeah. No, I'd
Yeah.
say you're probably spot on with that. All right, cool. Good choice. And actually, I think you're only I think you might be the first person to actually say Brontosaurus. I'd have to go
Really?
back and double check that, but I think you're the first one. Yeah.
Oh wow, I
T-Rex
thought
is a pretty
there were.
popular answer.
I know that's what my
So,
son would choose, but like, and then there was always there's always the age where you get all the dinosaur books and you're teaching them like
mhm.
it's a like I could not believe. And it's also like just when their language starts. So the things that he would memorize and I was hoping to say, but they've all disappeared from my head. Like we had to study so many when he was like 3 years old of like all the kind. Brontosaurus stuck though. That one made an impression. So I'll
Yeah.
stick with that. Yeah.
Well, when your child is that age, there's a brief window where you are
A
a
student again learning
certifiable
everything.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You are a certifiable dinosaur expert.
Exactly.
Be you don't have a choice. You're going to be whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right,
Nothing,
very
nothing
cool.
stuck, unfortunately. But
Yeah,
for about 6 months there, I knew everything about dinosaurs.
yeah, it didn't stick with me either. Every
No.
once in a while, you get a glimpse of something during a Jurassic Park movie
Yeah,
of all places, be like, I don't think that's legit. I don't think that's how they actually did that. I
yeah.
think that was yeah. So, all right. So, Tamara, thank you so much for being on the FSF Popcast today. Where can our listeners and viewers go to find out more about you, your work, and anything you have coming up?
Well, I do like old school style. I have tamarapodemski.com. I think it's
Woohoo!
mostly my music is there, but you can also see my other socials and my Instagram. Instagram is probably what I'm most active on to spread news about work. So that's the Tamara Podemski or at the Tamara Podemski. But if anyone does want to listen to my music, there's also tamarapodemski.com, and then also my production company with a lot of the films and works that are in development, and that's Blackbird Productions.
Okay.
Blackbird Productions Inc. .ca, something like that.
Okay. Excellent. But we'll put links for Blackbird Productions.
Oh, great. Thanks.
You and your Instagram, your website, and all that stuff. We'll put that down in the show notes down below, so people can go check out your work, see what you've got going on, and
Thank
everything else. So,
you.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. And guys, hey, this is your reminder that if you haven't already been following our show here on YouTube, it's really the most important thing you can do, and it's also free. It helps to ensure that we get more amazing guests like Tamara Podemski here, and have these funny and enjoyable moments for you to be able to listen to. So please consider following our show. It helps out more than we'll ever be able to tell you. And go check out Tamara's work as well. She's got some really cool stuff out there, guys. A really cool follow. I follow. I follow on Instagram. So,
Thanks.
but anyway, again, Tamara, thank you for being on the show. Everyone, thank you for listening and or watching. And may the force be with you as you continue to live long and prosper. Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks.
Copyright 2025 FSF Podcast. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Podcast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpodcast.com.